Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Season 4 of Spine Chill. Great to be back for another season. I'm John Wolfe here with my co-hosts, Gary the Hot Cross. For those that are audio-only listeners, he just made a motion with his hands and didn't say anything.
Hello, everyone.
And Doug Running Man.
Hi, hello. I'm Doug Running Man. It's nice to be here.
Doug, thank you for saying something.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Usually you just keep going, John, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, you know what? We'll get this down by season 38.
We'll figure it out.
Easy. Yeah.
I think we're doing a pretty good job considering.
I think so, too.
John and I are, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, we're picking up the slack. We're carrying right now. Gary's like our healer that isn't using his Shemp colas.
I'm a good Cheryl. We'll get to
that. This is the special episode all about Evil Dead. Everybody, buckle in. Spooky Loops, I know you're listening. Your favorite Evil Dead podcast.
Jesus, that poor
2
guy.
hours of Evil Dead content. Let's go.
I mean, I'm down, but I don't really think either one of you plays enough to want to do that for real. I've been going hard on Evil Dead over the last week. Let me tell you, I think I played like legitimately 40 hours this week of just Evil Dead.
Yeah, I have played about an hour and a half, and it was just before the podcast, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We have a special Evil Dead segment where we'll talk about our solo queue survivor experiences. We also will have a special Texas Chainsaw Massacre update segment a bit later. Gary has done some research. Our field reporter, Gary, is
busy bean today. Busy bean.
He's come back with some findings, and we'll be talking about that. And before all that, we're going to get into some DBD talk. Specifically something that we mentioned last week, but we didn't take a deep dive into because, the PTB hadn't been out yet at the time of the recording, but the slugging and finisher mori update, which for anyone that didn't tune into Season 3, first of all, I would highly recommend it. But
It's a good season.
It was a great season.
One of our best. One of our best, yeah.
At least top 5. At least top 5 seasons. We talked about the new updates, which include the drastic new ability for survivors to pick themselves up off the ground now without help. Mm-hmm. But it takes them 45 seconds to recover. And that combined with the big change also of when everyone in the game is either down or dying or dead, the game just ends, and the killer Mori's the last person who was alive. And these are big changes to DBD, very controversial in a lot of ways. And I've seen people, a lot of other DBD creators on social media, kind of flip-flop back and forth. First they're for it, then they're against it. And, last week we kind of talked about our opinions on the surface, and it seemed like we had a pretty mild opinion on it of like, yeah, it seems they both seem like good changes for the game. But how have y'all's opinions changed now after seeing it in action?
Want to go first, Doug?
You'd like me to go first? Okay. So for the resident killer main perspective, I was with the crowd saying I really don't think that the baseline Unbreakable is going to be an issue. 45 seconds is half a gen. 45 seconds is an eternity. So, and again, people will say, well, they can run perks to make it faster. Yeah, well, that's a perk they're having to use to do something they can do baseline. And even with just baseline Unbreakable, they're saving 2 seconds on self pickup. Really doesn't feel like it's super.
Oh, I thought it was like 22 seconds.
No, yeah, it saves you.
Well, I'm saying saving. What I'm saying, okay,
something seconds.
Yeah, 22 and a half seconds compared to 24 seconds right now as it stands, right?
So
you're only
I see. Yeah, okay.
You're saving a second and a half with the baseline plus the perk. So it's like a very minor Unbreakable buff.
That's a good point, because a lot of people are framing it as like it takes 45 normally, and Unbreakable 22, but it's like well, it only takes like 24 right now. So
yeah, exactly. So it's it's a minor, which is kind of, I feel like it's funny and a little ironic that the week before they announced that we were hearing Killer Mains be like, Unbreakable needs a nerf, and then it got it got a little bufferoony, right? But
I like to think behavior saw the tweets and like, sure, yeah.
Yeah. I think that
Unbreakable, yeah.
The ultimate goal, I think, was to avoid situations like where people are getting bled out on the ground and when you play Survivor, it's just so uninteractive to be slugged, to be on the ground. If you're a solo queue player, you're at the mercy of three strangers. If you're on a Swift team, you still have to, someone still has to come pick you up, or you have to wait out the 24 seconds for Unbreakable, 22 and a half with the buff. So I don't know. It's very boring, and I think that the ultimate goal was to kind of deter people from leaning towards slugging so often. But I think with the advent of the finisher mori and the ability to end the game speedrun style, I honestly think it's going to lead to more situations where killers opt to slug. And I know that we'll talk about this. I think once we're done sharing our opinion, we'll kind of have a little round table about how we think that the combination of baseline Unbreakable with the finisher mori, how that's going to affect like the overall game meta moving forward. But I think that I underestimated, like I didn't put a lot of time into thinking about it, and I didn't play the PTB. Like I chose not to play the PTB specifically because like there is no actual new content coming. It's more just like that quality of life patch that people have been asking for months and months. Like, is this going to fix a couple bugs and test out something that again isn't even going live? Like they're not going live with the Unbreakable / finisher mori change here in 2 weeks when the PTB gets pushed to live. That's not going to actually happen. And we were just testing it to give them.
Which actually kind of leads into where I sit on the PTB stuff, because like I actually have quite a lot of faith in behavior at the moment. Like I was someone who was very anti 6.1.0 when the generators got 10 extra seconds, and I felt like solo queue really got fisted.
Wow, Gary, graphic.
Wow, graphic. But then 6.2.0 came out, and by then survivors had adapted a lot more than I thought they could. Like people still use Dead Hard quite a lot. It's probably still the most common exhaustion perk I see at this point. Like I see it like about. It's rarely not in my killer games. It's rarely not in my matches. People bring it quite a lot, and they use it well. Like I'm shocked when I'm. So like I think they were right with hyper focus and stuff. There's been adjustments where I feel like gens are fine. I think they were right. I think unfortunately I was wrong. Behavior was right with the changes. I think the game's actually from a balance perspective in a really good place. And with Unbreakable, the finisher mori, I'll talk about that in a second. But the Unbreakable thing, I have faith that I think it's not going live yet because I think there's a big killer update on the horizon. I think some of the lesser played killers that maybe rely on slugging, I think we're going to see a twins change and a nurse change, I think, and maybe some other changes to some other killers as well. I think that's going to come first. They're going to announce that. There's going to be a PTB to test that. This is just me just theorizing. It's what I think is going to happen. So I think they're testing this out now to align with some big killer changes in the future. I think there's like a grand plan in the motion at the moment where I think they're actually trying to make the game a little more competitive. And that's why I think finisher mori has been brought in as well, as the idea of them to prevent the hatch game at the end where people, generously give people the hatch, just trying to remove that a little bit. I've also, I had a game last week where an Onryo took me hostage a little bit. Like, I wasn't wiggling because they channeled someone out of 5 gens. My entire team gave up. I gave up. No one cared. And they bled 2 of them out, basically. And then they held me until I wiggled and was like, well, I'd rather move on to the next match, please. Whereas in the new finisher mori, that wouldn't be a problem. I'd just be dead.
Right.
Which would speed up that weird toxic thing people do. So I'm kind of in favor of finisher moris. And I have faith that Basekit Unbreakable is not really going to be a problem in the future. But right now, it does seem. We'll talk about the round table thing in a second, like Doug said, about how it's going to affect things. But that's how I sit at the moment. Like, I just kind of have faith in the process.
If I could just say one thing that I've heard from a lot of the survivor mains that I break bread with is that they're actually looking forward to the finisher mori change because those games that are completely lost will be over faster.
Yes,
it'll just be quick.
I'd rather move on to the next one.
Yeah, just go next.
On the note of the Unbreakable changes, so I pretty much have about the same opinion that I had last week, but we can expound upon it more now. I did have an interesting match this past week where I was being held hostage by my teammates. Actually, I was queued up with like another trio, and I was the solo random. I was on Midwich. I can't remember who the killer was. It was a Wesker, maybe. They had Fearmonger, so I was just on a gen, mind my own business. Of course, when you have Fearmonger, you have blindness, so you can't see who's on the hook. I had Kindred, and it was being obstructed by that. But they got a hook on this Claire, and I was just on the gen, and I was like, after a while, I was like, is anyone going to go get her? So I got off the gen so I could see through Fearmonger with Kindred, like, where are people? And one of the teammates was running towards her. And so I thought, oh, okay, I'll just go back on the gen then and do my job, because we were still at 5 gens, of course. Well, a couple more seconds pass, and then I realized they're not going to go get her. And so I got off the gen, and I got to her right as she went to stage 2. And I'm the only one that even tried, apparently. And this apparently pissed them off and their 2 teammates that they were in a call with. So they spent the rest of the match griefing me. I got slugged at one point, and they 99'd the heal and then ran away. They did stuff like that, and basically made it to where I couldn't do anything. My agency was completely taken away and had nothing to do with the killer. It was the rest of the Survivor players doing that to me. And so I was sitting there and I was like, this is a perfect example of when being able to just get myself up would get rid of this eventually. Because I was on the ground for a long time. I think my bleed out timer went all the way down to half or so. And of course the game ended at 5 gens because they were just giving up and not doing anything. It didn't make any sense, but it was one of those situations where I was like, I think this is another example, like a less seen example of how it would be good for the game to just be able to do this. And then we've covered the rest of it, killers holding the game hostage, but also just, it's not fun being on the ground. There's nothing to do. You can crawl around, you can recover, your hands are tied. So
I guess that's something I've never really thought about is, I think, isn't slugging basically the only situation in the game when you're slugged where you have absolutely no control over what happens next? Like when you're hooked, you can try to unhook yourself, right? You're in chase, you can try to escape, you can, do whatever you do to do. But when you're on the ground, like you absolutely rely on someone else. And
well, you have like a slight choice. Like you can recover instantly and like get ready for someone to come collect you. I mean, you do rely on that, or you can crawl away. Like you have a thing you can kind of interact with the killer, because like sometimes it's better to crawl away just to waste their time, because they're going to be right back to get you shortly after a short chase. But you have
a little.
I guess
you have a little say,
I just mean that that's really the only part of the piece of the game. Whereas the solo queue survivor, you 100% rely on someone else, no matter what.
Yes, yeah.
You need someone else if you want to get up. And now that won't.
Yeah, unless you're running. They have a hex and you're running Soul Guard or something. And I'll just get up over and over again. I think it's been a core part of the gameplay that has needed to be made more exciting and dynamic for the entirety of the game's existence, and it excites me that they're finally doing that. I do think maybe some of the timing needs to be adjusted, possibly, because do
you think 45 is too long or too short?
No, I think 45's fine. I think maybe, we were talking about Unbreakable being only 2 seconds faster, but I think with the advent of the changes where the killer can just end the game, or with the finisher mori changes as well, I do think maybe Unbreakable should have a different effect than just being a really fast pickup.
I don't want it to speed up like getting up though much. Like I think the 2 seconds is already pretty sweet. Because honestly, I'd sit there going like, if I run Power Struggle and Flip Flop, I'm going to get a lot of value out of that all of a sudden. So I think you don't want to change Unbreakable too much. I could say maybe they should give it like a Soul Guard element to it as well.
I don't know. I guess like my counterpoint as a killer main is, we talk about the meta getting stale, and they did this whole major perk rework. They worked with like 46 perks or something like that. I mean, does the meta feel fresh to anybody? Because to me, the meta feels almost exactly. People have just figured out what's optimal.
I think it feels worse.
I think it feels worse too.
Yeah, I don't.
As a predominantly Survivor player, it feels worse to me.
Right. So to me, it feels like anything that is gonna shake up the meta. Which if self pickup plus Power Struggle, Flip Flop, Unbreakable, if that's all going to start becoming more commonly used, that's going to mix things up a little bit. And then I always say, like, I've fielded so many people in my chat talking about, Unbreakable. It's like, just hook them when you down them, dude. And it's like, not a problem. Like, there is like that 1% chance you're going up against the 4-man who's like, LMAO, we're going to go down at pallets and we're going to use Power Struggle and we're going to hold the killer. It's like, okay, cool. So they're not working on gens. So eventually you'll use up the resources and you'll win anyways. Like, it's just, it feels like, I don't know, if the ultimate goal is to try and make the game feel fresher and have some new elements presenting themselves match by match, like, feels like a win to me to have people out there running multiple perks.
I have faith in Behavior's plan at the moment.
The vision. And it's very, and again, it's very easy to counter Unbreakable by just hooking the person that you downed and then you move on.
Because 45 seconds I think ages. It's so long.
I mean, as Spooky pointed out last week, we're not Twins mains, we're not Oni mains, so and I certainly don't play either of those killers very often at all. I hardly ever play Twins.
I occasionally play Twins and enjoy it. I know Doug loves playing Twins.
I do. I very much do, yeah.
Yeah, but those aren't our mains, I would say, right? So
no, definitely not.
So I think all three of us tend to play killers where we play for hooks, as some might say. And because I hardly ever slug. I only really slug if the survivors are annoying me. If I'm about to pick them up and then someone's just spinning right in front of me, clicking their flashlight, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go.
I will say I am not looking forward to people that use what's that? What's the boil over? People that go to the obnoxious spots, because there's a few still on Area of Crows, and it's like I'm not looking forward to, because I've had to leave people up there before, going you're a pain in the ass now. I can't hook you.
Yeah.
So you bleed out up there. I have to leave you. I don't want to, but you've proven that it's a problem, and then they're gonna just keep getting themselves up now. So that is
I don't think anybody hates sabotage more than I do. And then the whole Sabo Unbreakable boil over style meta could really get frustrating in a hurry if a lot of people start running it. So
I think one thing too about Unbreakable is that we talked about how the timing isn't that different, of 2 seconds, but the difference now is that they can pick themselves up infinitely over and over and over and over again. It's no longer, because right now Unbreakable is just a single use, and so it's fine that it's really fast, but it being as fast as it is planned to be with constant pickups could be an issue.
I think Unbreakable will become meta.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I'll be definitely taking it.
It's pretty meta now. I don't know. I think Unbreakable.
Oh yeah, a lot of people take it, but imagine you half you can just keep using it.
Well, I think also the Survivor meta is really loose right now because of the perk rework. The only perk that I see as a must-have is Off the Record. I basically I always put on Off the Record if I'm playing solo Survivor. But other than that, I've been running Open-Handed Kindred because it's fun. I every time it goes off, I'm like, be Kindred. I can see everything. I can see the entire
I'm slightly different. The only perk that I feel I always want to take is Blast Mine.
Yeah, but it's for fun, really. It's not like a comp perk.
I agree. I don't feel the need to take Off the Record. I never take it. I just don't really. There's no perk that I feel I need. I always kind of want Blast Mine at the moment.
I need Windows of Opportunity if I have any hope of surviving.
Since you said that to me a month ago or so, I've taken it a few times. I'm like, oh, it's really nice knowing where all the pallets are.
I just don't like all that crap on my screen with Windows of Opportunity.
I could get it, but once you get used to it, it's being able to path and knowing where you have safe pathing from tile to tile is incredible. And B, it can serve as a de facto bond. If you're especially on a map like Midwich or multi-level map, if you're starting to see pallets thrown, you know where the killer's at. You know where they're being chased at. It gives you a lot more information than just.
Well, you know where your toxic teammate is.
True. Where's Gary? I found him. Found him.
Yeah.
He threw Shaq at 5 gens. And then the other piece of that that can be a little frustrating is when you go against Pinhead. Once the box starts to turn yellow, that thing is gone forever. I can't help you with the box if I'm using Windows because it just blends in like a window or a palette, and you're like, oh god, where is it?
I mean, I think there's all perks that we prefer using and stuff, but it's not like it was before 6.1 where it was just dead hard DS, blah blah blah. There was the standard meta perks. So I think that people are a lot more open to being I'll take Unbreakable.
Yeah, I think they sorted the Survivor meta problem because everyone's bringing different stuff now. It's great.
They did, yeah.
Killer still has a few issues.
Oh man, I played against this Pinhead this past week.
Was it me?
No. It was a 5 slowdown Pinhead though. They were running Pain Res, Deadman Switch, Plaything, Pentimento, and I was in solo queue. We got 1 gen done the entire game.
Oh, nice!
It was horrible.
That's a win.
Honestly, yeah. It was just oh, this is so boring. But Yeah, well, the killer slowdown stuff, that's a topic for another time.
Yeah.
But overall, I think, they might need to tap Unbreakable a little bit just because you can just get yourself up over and over.
Mm.
And I think they could tap some of these other perks like, like Boon Exponential and stuff. It just seems like they should add something more interesting to it. Rancor, some of the stuff that's going to be affected by this upcoming change.
Yeah, Rancor feels like a real shame. That one's a particular shame.
Yeah.
I think they should give its Mori back. I just think that should always have its Mori.
I'll sound a little negative here, but I feel like at this point there are so many dead perks in this game that like I'm fine with them keeping Unbreakable and Exponential. Like let's look at some other stuff. Let's look at some of the perks that don't get run at all. Like at this point, at least Exponential and Unbreakable and No Mither are going to serve some form of purpose. There are perks that on your best day or your worst day you're never going to run them.
Slippery meat.
Yeah, slippery meat. Better together, like who's running who's running better together, like it's I don't know, it's and it's a byproduct of there being so many chapters and so many perks and so many killers, but it's just like, man, it's really hard for a meta to really open up but I will say on the subject of you're communicating some worry about Unbreakable paired with the baseline Unbreakable, paired with the ability to infinitely pick each other up. Stop. Don't PTB that. Just put it live. Like, why do they not force these changes and just say, the game's going to be fine. Like, we're going to be okay. No matter what, we're going to be okay.
That's why I don't think they've pushed this one, because I don't think right now it fits. There's something else on the horizon.
You're the conspiracy theorist.
No. It's like it's a conspiracy in a good way.
Sense.
Because if they put it in now, I think it does cause problems. Nurse is a problem. You can't just have finisher Moris running around like that. Should not be going in anytime soon, because you've got killer problems with Blight and Nurse, too able to knock people down immediately and just win the games in seconds.
See, I slightly disagree with that, because I've seen those viral clips. They always do this whenever there's these big changes. There's these viral clips that's like, look what can happen now. Nurse can win in 1 minute. Do. But
it's not so much about the speed. It's about what's going to encourage them. Like, I don't think they're just going to be speed running every match, but I think they're going to keep going for their slug games, and they're boring.
Right.
I don't want to be stuck in a game where I can't do a gen because the nurse keeps downing 2 people, and then it just keeps spiraling around to eventually people bleeding out because the match has been going on so long. Like, that would be a problem.
Well, I mean, my reaction to seeing clips like, I play as Nurse and I slugged 4 people in under a minute. Look at that. Is that can still happen now, no problem. Like that, people still play as Nurse and just go for 4 slugs and they just win because nobody gets themselves up. Then they just hook 4 people. It just takes longer for the game to end. So, because I saw a lot of people in my chat expressing, like, have you seen those clips of Blight and Nurse like winning in under a minute? And I'm like,
but I just think there'll be more people doing it. The same way, remember that pig trap thing? I forget who did it, but someone, the AFK pig build, and then I was just bumping into it every other game because it got popularized. People were like, I want to ruin people's day, and I think we'll see that a lot more. And I think it's wiser behavior to be like, let's not put in this thing that doesn't fit into our game just yet until we, I suspect, have some killer changes. But again, that is me being conspiratorial because I have no idea what's on the horizon.
Well, this is part of the problem with just having it on the PTB and not just sticking it on live servers, because we can't tell how like the mainstream players are going to react to it. So I mean, you could be right. It could, all the Nurse and Blight players that are already, kind of playing to win comp status, they might be like, oh, let's just go for the slug win. But I think even the most competitive players, I mean, how many times can you get 1 minute wins before you get kind of tired of that? And want to play like
I don't
the
think
real
it ever
game
happens. I don't think it ever happens to some of these guys, man. I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, some people out there are just sadists and they want to win every game.
Well, this kind of leads us into the topic of our little roundtable talking about, do we think that these new changes are going to detract from slugging or promote it?
Well, I think it's going to do both, and it's going to be kind of a tug of war in the beginning, because I do think it's one of those things that survivors are going to have to adjust to. Because right now, survivors are playing the game in a way that, like, yeah, that can happen. It would promote slugging with the way that they play right now. But as survivors get used to games where they can pick themselves up and the game can also end in under a minute, I think they'll shift their play styles to be a little bit more wary of situations like that. 2 slugs go down. Time to back off. Time to hide in the locker.
Buy them time to get up.
Buy them time to get up, exactly, and not just go straight for the save, where we would do that now. 2 slugs, time to get off the gen, go for the save, because this could snowball really quickly. So I think people will adapt and adjust, and it might be fine. We'll just have to see.
That's a good point. With the being able to pick themselves up, you no longer are obligated to go and pick somebody up. So you can just go into a locker, hide in the corner, play the immersion game, play the long game, which, yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. I could see that side of the argument. However, I am on the side of the argument that this is going to heavily encourage people to slug, because 45 seconds is half a gen. If a guy's on the ground for 45 seconds, that's fine. With me as killer, right. I don't care. If he's picking himself up, that's fine. I can still push people off gens. I can still, get my job done. And again, it comes down to risk versus reward. And it's very low risk, very high reward if you're able to get a couple people on the ground. Then it's like, if you're running something like Infectious or you have some sort of like godlike game sense, you're positioning for a win at 4 or 5 gens at 3-4 minutes into the match if you got 2 people on the ground. Yeah. And as of right now, in the current meta, without baseline Unbreakable, 2 slugs at the beginning of the game isn't close to a win condition, most likely. Like there are a lot of ways that can shake out and have them come back and be okay. But if you only need to down 2 people, especially if you have a killer with an instant down, it's all of a sudden you're sitting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with WPA, like win. I think it's win percentage added or something. It's a statistic that they use in like baseball and football. Basically, like they assess the game state of the game and say like what their win percentage likelihood is based on the state of the game. If you're down by 4 runs, it's the bottom of the 9th. You have no runners on, you're up to bat. Like your win percentage is going to be very low. The likelihood of you winning that game is very low. Obviously, as elements change, the WPA goes up. I think that as of right now, 2 slugs at the beginning of the game isn't a huge win percentage likelihood. Like there's a lot of different paths the game can go. When you only need to down 2 more people to end the game, your win percentage added is pretty high at that point. Mm-hmm. Like it's worth a risk. You can luck your way into a really easy win.
Yeah, I lean somewhere in the middle, I think, because I think John's right. I think people will adapt and will change, and like I think it's going to be nice for survivors to not necessarily have to basically risk themselves to get the game going again, because they don't have to rush for the pickup. When there's 3 people slugged, you're like, okay, well I've got to do something dangerous now, and if I get caught, if I see me, GG. Right. Which is miserable. Whereas now you can just be like, okay, all I have to do is hide, and the game can continue. And I think that's where like tenacity would be a great perk for people to start bringing, because no one really brings that perk. That could be a lot of fun. But on the flip side of that, if a killer does down someone, at the moment I'd be like, okay, statistically, survivors probably aren't going to be going to pick up anymore. That's, as Doug says, 45 seconds that they're not doing a gen. I may as well just go chase someone else off a generator now, because then that's huge pressure. Like that's going to stop like those 2 to 3 gens popping early game. So I think we might see more people getting slugged, and kind of like. Remember when the gens first had got 10 seconds added on? I felt like there was a lot more survivors getting left to go stage 2. Because people were like, no, I need to get gens done. I think we're going to see a lot less people going to help survivors get up and stuff, obviously because they don't need to. But as I say, I think that'll adjust and more people will bring Unbreakable. So I think things will balance out okay. Again, I have faith in the system, but I do think we're probably going to see an encouragement of slugging.
Yeah.
This is
certain MMRs maybe.
This is something I was thinking about this past week, but it kind of relates to our conversation. What have y'all's experience been with Monstrous Shrine? Like, have you seen it much? Played against it? Played with it?
I've seen it a couple of times. I think I've brought it a couple of times as well to test it out.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Like it feels really strong because survivors don't come as quickly anymore.
Right,
especially in solo queue.
That's what made me think of it when you were talking about gen times and stuff. People going to stage 2, because I have found. In games, in my solo queue games, sometimes I'll look over and I'll be like, whoa, they should not be that close to stage 2. What happened? And then it throws everything off. It throws your timing off to be like, oh no, they're running Monstrous Shrine I got to go for the save now, and then you get there and they hit stage 2, and then the game is on its head. It's
like
somebody's already at dead hook, right?
You see the certain line, like, if I don't get off this gen this second, they go stage 2. You can just you just know the distances. Yeah.
Yeah, but then, just a perk like Monstrous Shrine, which increases how fast you die on hook, that can throw things off, like, tremendously. But, like, if people brought Monstrous Shrine every game, if it was that strong, then you would slowly adapt and adjust to the new timing. And I think that's going to be kind of the test with the slugging change, is, like, how are people going to, weigh that risk versus reward as survivor and as killer? What's the meta going to be like? Is the meta going to be, the survivors hide and then the killer realizes this, and so they say, you know what, I need to hook now because I haven't found anybody, and they're about to get themselves up. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. It will change the game quite a lot. I'm like you, Gary. I have faith.
I don't want them getting back up. Like, that chase was a nightmare. You're all going on a hook.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like, which one's going to get you the most reward? Is it going to be putting them on a hook, or is it going to be leaving them on the ground?
Yeah. Which I actually quite like, that there's going to be more elements of risk versus reward. I think that's quite nice. Mm-hmm.
I think it will make the game
more choices for the killer to make, more tactful things to think about. I
think it'll make strategy a little more complex. I mean, could be wrong. We could the changes could go live, and it's just like, we just lost in 1 minute because we all got slugged, But
yeah,
I think it might be like that at first, but eventually it'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll see who makes a YouTube video, and we'll figure out what the meta will be after that. So, you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, this build never loses. Three minute wins, it never loses, and then all of a sudden there's a new meta.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm optimistic.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm optimistic about the change. I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that, actually, I'll be honest with you, before we went live today recording, I hadn't really even considered that, the idea that, like, people will adapt and evolve in the way that they handle. I always pictured the change with the current meta, like, you get off the gem when somebody's slugged and go pick them up. And now, taking that element away and being able to play more slow and more passive, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think that's what's going to happen for sure. And again, I think it'll be a lot like the baseline borrowed time that we have now, right? Everybody makes a big stink out of it, but, like, do you guys notice it really anymore? Like, it's just kind of
no.
It feels like it's always been there, right? It just feels like it's always been there.
I just see every killer count to 10 now instead of 8.
Oh, it's so funny.
Exactly.
See, this is why I bring off the record, because I've had so many killers count to 10 right after I get unhooked, and then they hit like 12 or something, they hit, and then I just get it anyway.
Do you think they're like, oh my god, I can't even count? Oh, no.
No. Because that would require them taking accountability and responsibility and blaming themselves. That's not going to happen.
Whenever I see someone bring actual BT now, I'm like, oh my god, I'm, like, super safe.
Yeah,
I can walk away from the killer and I'm fine.
It's so great when people do bring it.
Not that I bring BT.
Yeah, I don't bring it, and I rarely get it.
When I do an unsafe unhook, now I'm like, it's okay, I've brought BT, Basekit.
Yeah.
Basekit BT.
I do. I actually, when I swift with friends, I do bring BT, especially if I'm playing with somebody who's like a flashlight gamer.
If we were swifting, I'd be like, I'll bring everything for the team.
I just think it's great. I think it's great when you have a person who's a flashlight gamer and they're going to constantly be putting themselves at risk to get saves. Then you just have a way, because of course flashlight gamers get a lot of extra attention too. So it's nice to have BT in that situation. So, in some ways, again, like, that's one of the ways where these changes, like, we're all primarily solo queue Survivor players, right? Like, I mean, John and Gary both stream solo Survivor. I don't stream Survivor, but I play a lot of solo Survivor. So the dynamic in these perk changes and these, like, baseline changes is going to be different for us than it is for teams that are continually running in a 2, 3, or 4 stack. So,
yeah.
So I guess
that's true.
Speaks to the complexity of the game and the game's meta, and something that for a future episode we'll talk about, I'm sure, but the disparity between solo queue play and organized Survivor Friends play, and why that may or may not be a factor in a lot of the balance changes.
Yeah, that actually is a good point about how solo versus Swift is going to react to this, because I think Swift, like always, is going to take it on the chin, because they've got communication.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how many buffs you give to killer, Swift will always win because they've got comms. You have to really hyper balance the game badly for it to be a problem for Swifts. You have to kill solo queue completely, basically.
I can see the slugging and finisher mori changes being a bit tougher on solo queue, but when is that not the case.
Yeah, like,
it's like every change is like that. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they might bring like other things that we might get is like ping systems have been bounced around before by behavior, so they might be on the horizon. They may want to create more coordination before they start making games able to be rushed through, slugging finish mori style. Like it may be, if I'm slugged and then another person gets slugged, I can send a message like saying, hide, don't come for me, hide.
Yeah.
Like something like that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell my teammate not to do something stupid.
You could say me decoy, like in Home Sweet Home Survive. My favorite call out.
Me decoy.
Of our favorite asymmetrical horror game.
Our favorite asymmetrical horror game. Doing awesome in the polls.
True. How is it in Romania? How are the Romanians taking the Home Sweet Home Survive? Is it big?
Oh, I mean, I can only assume that it's huge in Romania, considering our recent numbers.
Podcast,
Since our podcast. That's where they've been getting a flood of traffic from Romania.
The game's blowing up over there now.
It's one thing I was just thinking about with these changes and Gary's theory that they're going to have some other changes going with it to coincide. It makes me wonder if there's an upcoming chapter with new perks and maybe new powers that are specifically related to slugging. Like, imagine a killer perk that makes a survivor's slug timer longer or something like that. I wonder if they're going to be messing with that mechanic with new perks.
Please tell me I want it to be another creature and I need it to be a big giant slug monster.
You want it to be a big...
I want a slug killer.
I want to be a big snail. I want to be a big snail, and then like he can pick up survivor. He can store one survivor in his shell. And they don't have a wiggle timer, but he can store them in his shell for like 20 seconds and go on a chase. But he's got a movement speed of 3.0.
Survivors can slow it down further. They can pick up salt from chests.
Doug is holding his head in his hands right now.
I think that's a great idea, guys.
Or it could leave like a slug trail, right? Like the trail
and it
of
slows
torment.
Survivors.
Yeah. And they can be like, maybe when you're slugged, you go faster in it.
I'm honestly surprised you guys aren't already hired.
Behavior's really missing out by not hiring us for our new snail killer. What should it be called?
Think of the cosmetics.
The Slugger.
Oh, it could be called the Slugger. Little Slugger.
Little Slugger. He can have a baseball bat.
Oh my god, look at that cosmetic. I'd buy the shit out of that.
And it could be his Little Slugger.
Yeah.
Doug
loves it. Doug loves it.
I mean, I want to judge you, but I've ever told you guys my theory craft killer idea.
No.
For the Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man.
So it'd be the Muffin Man, and you'd have these muffins that you threw at the survivors, and as they hit them, they would start to gain weight and slow down, and they'd inflate, and it would slow them down, and that's your killer.
I'd love it if it affected perks like Sprint Burst.
Yeah, yeah. They try to sprint out there.
Too many muffins.
Yeah, and the Muffin Man song could play as the chase music. You could have little ovens on the hooks, like it'd be like oven hooks.
It could be like an ice cream truck style. Do you know the Muffin Man?
Yeah, exactly.
Little chase tune.
Little chase ditty. Yeah, I like that. What do you guys think? Behavior? Are you listening?
I mean, they gotta be tuned in.
Hashtag into the fog.
Hashtag into the fog. Yeah.
We just dropped 2.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea for a podcast episode where we just all of us come up with like 3 different ideas and we spend the podcast presenting our killer ideas. I can draw some sketches.
Gary's getting carried away now.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have some ideas that I think would be good for the game. But yeah, that would be a good idea.
That's a good
because I have an idea of a key rework. I'd be interested in your.
Yeah, so we want to talk. We want to do that segment at some point in the future as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that's a great idea.
We'll do that in a couple
like
weeks,
fun.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
A couple of seasons.
A couple seasons from now. Season 7,
seasons
maybe.
in the future, yeah.
Season 6, season 7, somewhere around there.
Let us know what you think in the comments.
So I think the last thing, and I just wanted to touch on real briefly with DBD, but I think we wanted to mention was the hacking problem.
Okay, yeah.
Where I'm sitting and standing and experiencing, it already seems a little better to me. And that could be my in a vacuum experience.
Since when?
Causing Well, since like last week.
Oh, because I had a nightmare the other morning. Well, you know.
What day was that? What day was that?
Tuesday.
Okay, because I would say near the later part of the week, the later stages of the week.
Okay, because like Tuesday morning when I was like recording Killer Games, oh my god, I got a hacker every other game.
I feel like around Wednesday or Thursday for me, and again, this is my in a vacuum, subjective perspective. It really started to die down. But yeah, I was in the same boat. That same day we were both playing. Like, I mean, I talked to you about it. There were literally hours.
You were like getting just
hours where I was getting held hostage, like just continually being sniped by the same hacker over and over again. I'm recording off stream, like I have no audience, so it's not a person looking for attention. They're just literally trying to make my day bad.
Me getting hackers, like no one knows who the fuck I am. So, like I don't think they were targeting me. I think it's just there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
running around
out in the wild,
which is a little worrying.
But I would say that over the course of the last few days, I played a tremendous amount of DBD late in the week, Thursday, Friday timeframe, and I did not have a single overt hacker, not an obvious one, not a 2-killer game, or not a 5 gens pop and they leave guy. Like that never happened to me. And I had a couple of people that were borderline suspicious, but I wasn't getting continually having to dodge lobbies with incognito survivors. I wasn't seeing a lot of obvious stuff. So my genuine hope is that these things that they talked about, these fall changes that they talked about, are already starting to be implemented, and not just that I got lucky. Because I do know that there are still, I mean, I know just a day or two ago, I think I saw Dowsy was being held hostage by like three hackers or something, like while he was live streaming. He was playing GeoGuessr while he was being held hostage.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're right though. Hopefully like something's getting sorted out in the background.
Yeah.
Again, I have faith at the moment. I
haven't been held hostage, and I haven't had an obvious cheater on my stream in quite a while. Maybe I've just gotten lucky. But I do experience the paranoia of, wow, they got around that corner really quickly,
Yeah, like it's really hard not to feel like that all the time now.
Yeah, I mean, like Doug said last week, I used to make fun of people making accusations, but it seems, I mean, it's a pretty normal, like, concern to have now with how common they are. Just the other day, I was playing against this Sheva who was just, it was like the way she was looping Killer Shack. It's like she was just a little faster than I thought she should have been. Like every time I saw her, she was a little further than I expected. And it happened like 4 or 5 times in a row. And I was like, what the hell? But I eventually killed her. And I was like, I mean, I guess she was just running those really tightly and was really good. I don't know. That's the normal conclusion that I have to come to unless they do something crazy, like go on and off the hook or...
Yeah, it could be subtle. They just they don't choose to I insta escape now. Like they don't necessarily reveal themselves.
Did you check the profile?
No, I didn't.
Because there's like a checklist for me. There's like a hacker checklist. Like at this point,
private
if
profile.
if the private profile, if they have no profile picture, if they have no friends on their Steam account, their Steam account's not set up yet. Those are all like major red flags that if paired with sussy behavior in the game. It's like you have like a meter, and you're like, this guy seems like he's a little fast. Okay, so private profile. Oh, okay. No profile picture. No friends on Steam.
It's just the thermometer goes up.
Yeah, exactly. So, you see if somebody seems a little weird, and then you check their profile, and they have like 4,000 hours in the game, and they're playing with 2 people on their friends list. Probably not hacking. I doubt that people are cavalier enough to risk their main account on. A 5% movement speed increase.
I've seen people like hacking on their main accounts.
Yeah, but if you get a guy and you're like, oh my god, this guy seems like he's really fast, and he always seems to know where I'm at, and he never falls for any of my mind games. Right. Then you look and he's got 3 VAC bans on his Steam account. Yep, there's a good chance that might have a little something going on in the kitchen.
Yeah, a reasonable assumption. Yeah, I just don't check the profiles. I should make a habit of doing that though. I normally just write it off as just like, they're probably just good. I want to avoid drama in case it's like another stream or something.
I mean, it's rarely worth it. I mean, you're still never. It's one of those things like it's like checking your partner's phone or something. You're never gonna actually be sure, right? Like you're never gonna know. Yeah. Like you can't actually be sure. So like, what's the point of like getting some more confirmation bias if you're not actually going to know anyways.
I usually just look for profile comments. I just like it when there's like arguments in people's profile comments. If I play against someone who's a jerk or I feel like they're a cheater, I'll check their profile just to see if there's like weird comments. Yeah. I got a great minus rep the other day.
Oh, if minus rep makes you a cheater, I'm gonna get banned because I
had someone in the post game like threaten me they were gonna minus rep me. I was like, oh no, please don't do this to me.
Not my rep.
They did it as well. Oh, like a bullet through my heart.
I mean, yeah, that whole thing. Anybody who threatens that. It's like, what are you even talking about?
You better respect me or I'll minus rep you.
I mean, people are way more likely to leave a minus rep comment on a rando's profile than a plus rep. So what does it even mean?
Yeah,
I mean, if I look at somebody's profile and it's just all minus rep, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It just means...
it means to me like they win a lot. I feel like they probably win a lot of games.
Probably. Yeah, they probably have a high win percentage.
Winning does not trend well with losers.
They were just upset that I charmed the killer more than they could because they got killed. Whereas I knew when to be like, spare me. I'm cute.
Yes, Gary, you're very charming. Killers give you the hatch a lot.
Thank you, John.
Impressive. Yes.
Thank you.
So VHS, do we want to move on to VHS now?
Oh, do we have time to talk about all the VHS news? Or oh my god, are we going to cover it?
Acting all aloof. Oh, is it that time? I wasn't even.
Oh. I wasn't playing VHS for 2 hours before we started the podcast. No, I don't think there's a lot to talk about in VHS though. The reality is that it's in a real dead period. Deathwire came out and was a great addition to the game. The Eviscerator map is fantastic. The quality of life changes for Monster were great. As a Monster main, I am 2 thumbs way up. The reality is the player base is rough. I mean, I checked this morning
rapidly.
Has it basically settled back to what it was before Deathwire, or is there any uptick?
I wish I was paying that close of attention before Deathwire because I really wasn't. The reality is we were.
Have you tried playing Survivor? Because you said the queue times had gotten pretty good.
Teen gross, yuck. No, I think that the queue times were fantastic for Teen when the new Monster came out because everybody wanted to play the new Monster. I was told by a person who was a full-time VHS streamer who is now primarily streaming Evil Dead that as of right now, teen queues are anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. And and the teams that are waiting that long are professional teen squads.
Right.
And winning 4-minute games. And it's a weird, there's like a weird, I'm not going to go into this. Maybe this will be a subject for a future episode. Because I did have an individual experience that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth with VHS. And I'm not going to go into any more details than that. But the reality is that you've got some of these guys that are sitting in 20-minute queues to win the game in 3 minutes. And it's really off-putting, I think, for a lot of people who are trying to start the game and join the community. They're teen main or Monster main. Like if you're a teen and you end up in a lobby with a duo who ends the game in 4 minutes against a new Monster, that's not fun.
Yeah.
And you didn't get to play. If the Monster is like, oh, just check out VHS, everybody's been talking about it, and then they get deleted in 2-3 minutes, like that's not fun for anybody. But I do know that custom lobbies are coming, which for some reason a lot of people in the VHS community are convinced that customs is going to save the game's player base. It's going to bring in a lot of new players because people will be able to play customs with their friends and teach them the game, and they won't have to learn on the fly. They won't have to sit in queues to play the game and learn the game.
I don't think there's that many people eager to bring their friends over. Like, I don't think there's that many people waiting going, I just need to be able to face some AI before I decide to dedicate myself to this game. I just don't think there's that many people doing that.
I do wonder, won't it make queues worse if people are sitting in custom lobbies?
Oh.
I mean,
I think the only way it wouldn't is if there was an influx of new players, but I don't think it'll bring them.
I don't think custom lobbies are going to bring in new players. Yeah.
All I know is that as a Monster main, my queues are instant 24/7. So I have no problem playing VHS the way I want to play it. I enjoy playing Monster, although the consensus is that Monster still needs a little bit of help to be more casual, new player, exciting. Kind of. But I did see this morning that the player base was at around 250 and Home Sweet Home Survive was only at 220. So they're back. They're back, baby. VHS
is back.
They're
just
back.
clawing their way back
Watch out, DVD.
to the number
coming
2
for ya.
asymmetrical horror position.
I think that if that'd be another discussion for maybe another podcast where and we could talk about just a little bit. I would say that Evil Dead must be number 2 right now, right? Like,
Yeah, well, it's hard to
As far
tell
as
because it's on Epic
horror
Games, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, probably because it's got crossplay and
Yeah, I would
mean,
assume Evil Dead's number 2. Like, I had no... Because obviously me and John played it today. I had no problems with matchmaking on either side. Like,
No.
I jumped straight into a demon game, and then I played some solo queue, and every match was pretty quick to get in.
Yeah, both sides, but pretty much 24 hours a day, both sides queues are fantastic. You can always find a match. Whereas with VHS, if you're playing teen, you're gonna be waiting for a while. I don't know. We don't have the numbers, but I would be shocked if there were less than 250 people playing Evil Dead the game right now, with that being crossplay and queues being so fantastic. So
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Evil Dead, I believe last week we kind of set up what we were going to talk about this week a bit by talking about how we were all going to check out Solo Queue Survivor on our own. We were all going to split off on our own, play some Solo Queue Survivor matches, and report back with our findings. And I'm pleased to say I played some just before, so I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk about it.
let's go, John. Tell us your story. Tell us your story, John.
All right, so I think last week we brazenly declared that we were going to play like 10 matches or something like that, and that didn't end up happening. But I did play for about an hour and a half, and it was only 2 matches, and they were both losses. One of them, we had a DC, and we hung on for a bit, but we never even got to the dark ones or anything. We were stuck on the dagger stage of things. So, and we were also running out of time. So it was kind of a long match. And then I got a series of like players canceling on me because I was auto-locking Mia, and I guess that's what did it. Because people would be like, I didn't get to play my favorite character or whatever. Maybe they wanted to play warrior. We already had a warrior. But it took a while for me to get into another match, and then when I did, it dragged on for about 45 minutes. We got all the way to the dark ones at the end, but then we finally died. I probably went down about 8 times. I was the potato, I'll admit it. I was also level 6, and I think the other guys were level 25s. So, be that as it may. The demon ended up being level 41 at the end, which I think we talked about.
Crazy.
It. Like,
that's a crazy level.
Never seen a level that high before. It just went on. The game would not end, and we were not really leveled ourselves. Like I think I got 12 pink F over the course of the match. So overall, in the first match I carried really hard and we just lost. And if I'm carrying hard and I barely play the game, that's a problem. And the second one, I was the potato. So I got to see kind of both sides of the coin of like, I'm frustrated with my teammates because they're not pulling their weight. And I also got to see the other side of like, I'm probably the teammate that they're frustrated with, because I'm not leveled and I don't have experience with the game. I'm probably making a lot of mistakes. I'm not dodging at the right time, things like that. But yeah, 2 losses, and it didn't really feel close, even though the matches went on for forever. Like I always felt like the demon was gonna win.
Okay. So I had a slightly different experience. I played 5 matches. 1 was killer. Demon, sorry. I started off with Demon to warm up because that's fun, and I had a great time. Loved playing Demon. Absolutely amazing. Then I played 4 Survivor matches, and my first match was against the Puppet Master, and my teammates were bizarrely dumb. Like willfully not driving on the road for some reason.
Just driving through brush, crashing into things.
Like just the road's right there. That kept happening. But people just split off in their own direction. I was playing the new chap. What's his name? With the nail gun.
Oh yeah, that guy.
David.
Is it David? Yeah, I was playing him. So I'm like low leveled with him, and we kind of got crushed into oblivion. To be honest, in that match, I did what I could. People weren't standing my little fire thing. They were just kind of running all around it. I was like, it's here to help. So then that one was a defeat. Went in for the second match. Played David again. I think I played David in the first match. Our Cheryl wouldn't heal. She didn't heal me once. The second match, I played Cheryl because she's my main. She's level 25, much easier.
Right.
Second match went great. Like I think they were playing the Plague Bearer, the Plague Bringer.
The
new one. Yeah.
Witch.
Yeah, it was a great match. Good back and forth. Very competitive, and we just won at the end. It was like nice. My team knew what they were doing. I played another match, won that one as well against the Necromancer. Again, it was really nice having a team that were competent. They knew how to drive. They waited for each other. Like, we went in together to things. Like, it was really nice. People actually went for the objectives together. And then the fourth match was the one I got tilted on. Went against the Puppet Master again. So I lost both matches to the Puppet Master, I guess. But I had teammates that were just, like, not working together. There was me and one other character that were just, like, together. And everyone else was, like, going into different objectives. They were just, like... They didn't even wait for me. They got in a car. I was running towards the car. And then they drove away. Eventually, I was trying to save one of our teammates who went down. They didn't come to help me, so I went down. Someone came to pick up both our bodies. Only picked up one. Got in a car. Drove away from we were at the resurrection spot. They weren't even being attacked. They just drove away and then turned around, and then the demon killed the other person, so came for them.
What survivor were you playing in that?
I was playing Cheryl.
Okay, so you were like 25.
Yeah, I was trying.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I was desperately trying to like keep people together so I could heal them.
Yeah,
I had good amount of Shemp colas. I was always on the lookout for them. Like, I was doing my job, but as soon as they start running in different directions, they're like, the reason we started playing these solo games, right, was because of the discussion last week of solo queues unwinnable.
That's right.
Because the demon buffs. I don't think that's the case, because I won half of my games as solo queue. But when you lose and your teammates are awful, oh my god, I was so angry. Like, I was going to do another one, but I turned it off. I was like, I can't do solo queue in this game. It's too annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, I was feeling similarly frustrated.
I would argue the one of the biggest issues that you might have had, John, and you talked about getting dodged a lot. The game's been out for a minute now, and like we're getting proficient at the game. A lot of teams don't want a level 1, level 2, level 6 Mia. Like, they want to bring 25s and they want to give themselves the best chance to win. Demon players go hard, and Demon is strong in the meta right now. So I know that if I'm playing Solo Survivor and I see a level 6 in my lobby, I'm like, oh, please lock something that's got perks. Like, please lock something that's like a little stronger. So I do think that like it makes a big difference when you're playing a level 6 versus playing a level 25 in terms of like 4v1 and the monster or the demon level being so high right now. Like, I think I don't know if you have any survivors that are more leveled than Mia.
I've got, I think my what's the leader's name? The girl.
Annie Nobi?
Annie. Yeah, she's like level 15, I think.
Yeah.
But,
so I mean, it might have been a little bit more of a comfortable experience if you had played Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Giving yourself a little bit more of a power level to start the game, and and maybe because I think a lot of you want to find, ideally you'll find solo queue you'll find teammates that kind of have a clue what they're doing, and I think a lot of those types of players might not want to play with somebody who's playing a level 1 to level 6 survivor. So that might be why you were getting dodged, but my experience with
I level
solo
up if I don't get games,
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And that speaks to an issue with the game that I have experienced quite a bit, which is when I first started playing Demon, all of my demons were level 1. And so you just basically have to commit to losing a ton of games while you level up your first demon. And then at that point, you can farm spirit points with whatever demon is leveled up or whatever survivor's leveled up. Like, you can farm points by playing. It's not like with VHS, you have to play the character you're leveling up. You have no other option. Obviously with DBD, we know, and with Evil Dead, we know that you can build up your currency by playing an already leveled, already maxed out character, and then use that to level up your other characters. So yeah, the barrier of entry is a little steep until you get somebody leveled up, and then at that point you're able to grind it out. But I played a lot of Solo Survivor this week, and I'm not gonna lie, similar experience, I think, to what Gary, I think I would equate mine to more like what Gary said. Like, I won more than half of my games, but the ones that I didn't win were miserable. Like, it was a miserable experience to be solo queue. And again, like, you're working towards the objective, and you look at your map, and there's 2 people, and like the comp strats, right, are to take a 4-man and split up, and so send people to get the map pieces so they can get the map really quick, You go to like high loot areas and get really fast looted. You put 2 guys on the dagger and 2 guys on the pages. Like that's like the comp meta for Evil Dead Survivor. But what my teammates were doing is like splitting up and doing nothing separately.
Yeah.
Like
just
so
having a little wander.
Exactly.
Having a little
like,
walkabout.
Just checking the map
and then they would go
right?
down on their own in the middle of nowhere, and then they would DC.
Yeah, DC like, oh, this is
so you're fed, and now you've DC'd. Right.
Yeah. The DC, like the first match that I had, there was a DC, and it killed the momentum because we weren't doing that bad as a 4. Like we were kind of like nobody was very good in that game, but we were holding it together. And as soon as they DC'd, it was like, ugh, the game slowed way down. We were getting objectives way slower. We were making our way across the map slower. It just ruined it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do about that, though?
Mellow.
You know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think overall it really comes down, and again, another subject for another episode, another season. But the solo queue experience in every ASIM I've ever played has always been lacking because of when you look at the way an ASIM shakes out, like as it starts to evolve and as players start to get better, you know, a killer or a demon or a monster playing at a higher level is going to require some coordination to beat. And when you go in a solo queue, you're just rolling the dice on having people that know what they're doing because
I think part of the problem in Evil Dead, like as opposed to like DBD, is there's only limited distance a survivor can be from you in DBD, so they can come help you and stuff. Whereas in Evil Dead, people can get in a car and just drive to the other side of the map, which I had happen in one of my matches. Yeah, it's like you're useless. Like if I die, there's nothing you can do for me.
Yeah.
I think also with Evil Dead, with the rolls, it does make it more frustrating and more impactful when someone's not pulling their weight. Like in the first match I had, we had a support, a Cheryl, and she only used her power on herself when she was by herself. And she was by herself a lot. She just kept healing herself. And I think she finished with 1,000 heal, which was really low considering how long the game was. And it hurt a lot more. It hurts a lot more, you know, from my inexperienced opinion, admittedly, with Evil Dead, than like, you know, there's a Claudette in the corner not doing gens. It's like, well, but we can do gens at least. But it's like if that Cheryl's picking up the Shemp Cola and hoarding it for herself and we're running around with 10% health, like there's not much that we can do about that. We need that person to be doing their role. Yeah. Yeah,
the overall game balance assumes that you're going to have a composition that, I mean, it's like, I talked about this a little bit on stream. It's like a little interactive horror RPG. Like you got your healer, you got your tank, you got your range damage, you got your melee damage. Like it's all, and you like level up. Like it's like a little role playing game.
It's a shame when you work together, it's so rewarding as well. Like I think
it
is it's a joy when it works together.
And I would recommend to Evil Dead the same thing that I've recommended to VHS, which is an option at the end of the match to vote to stay with your teammates. If you had a good, I mean, if you go, because I've gone into solo queue games and I'm like, man, these guys are on it. Like the tank is pulling aggro off me, because I like to play support in that game a lot, as well as warrior. So I kind of just play, when I play Survivor, I just kind of wait and see what everybody else picks. I've got at least a level 25 in every role. And so I'll sit and wait and say, okay, what do we need? Do we need a healer? Do we need a tank? Do we need whatever? I'll take my role. And I've had these teams where it's like, man, these guys are on it. This is so nice. And then I run it back, and my next match, I'm like, I would love for this demon to kill us now so I can just go to the next match, because we are losing. We will not be winning. You know, like this is just going to be a long, and like John talked about, and this is something that is a concern overall, like for the longevity of the game, is when you're with a bad team in DBD, you're out quick, right? Like, we're dead, we lose. Yeah, the killer got us. We got a hatch, and we're gonna. When you're the bad team on Evil Dead, and you got a demon who wants to farm spirit points, they can keep you in the match till they're level 41. Yeah. Like you're playing,
they can choose when to kill you.
And as a survivor, you're like, I'm miserable. I want out. I want to go next. But it benefits the demon to drag out a game that they're guaranteed going to win. I know, because I've done it. I had a game yesterday. Where I had 2 DCs as demon, and it was like really early in the match, and I just kept like downing them and letting them pick each other up, and it just continued to farm these 2 survivors for like, I mean, I feel guilty, but like, I don't though, because I need the points. But you know, dragging that game out for me was a huge boon for my spirit points. But like for those 2, they probably were not having a good time having to get picked up over and over and over again just to ultimately lose the game.
Yeah.
Well, they got more spirit points too, right? So
not as much as Doug,
but
yeah.
And they're good naturally. But yeah, so I would just say that is a long-term concern for the game, is that the pacing of the game in a sure loss is still very long. It's like kind of harkens back to DBD and like the Forever Freddy games and the current Forever Freddy, which is the Eruption, Call of Brine, Overcharge meta, where the killer just picks his 3-gen and never leaves, and you're there for 40 minutes until they just give up.
Oh my god, I had such a miserable match the other day. It was against a Wraith that was running Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain, and Dying Light. And I had never played against that combo before. I wouldn't think much of it, but gens were going so slow. Like, I just gave up. We had 2 gens left, and I was like, we're not even gonna do one of these. Like,
your morale starts to drop. You're like, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Oh.
Which is we were saying earlier about, do we think the DBD meta is better? I think it's worse because of stuff like that. It just feels slower. But I digress. We're talking about Evil Dead right now.
Yeah.
We can talk about DBD. We can inject a couple references.
I would say, I would like, that idea that you said, Doug, of like people saying together. I think DBD could add it too. I think there's no reason.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would say no to it because I like stuff like you.
I like getting randoms.
It would feel nice to be asked.
Yeah.
I just think it's.
Oh, go ahead.
I just think it's one of those things like crossplay where I'd love to see it become like the industry standard in an ASIM for you to be able to vote to stay with your team. Because again, I don't think ASIMs are super designed around solo queue when it comes to. I mean, there's always that delicate balance.
I've had a lot of time, like, because Overwatch is the main game I can think of that does that, where you can vote to stay in a lobby, and I love that. When I play with a good team, we like, let's say, and then you lose a match eventually, and everyone goes, right, well, this team's rubbish.
Yeah. We changed our minds. You all suck.
Yeah.
But it's one of it's the conversation that will literally never end in horror ASIM or an ASIM in general. Design around, or are we going to balance around solo queue or balance around Swift? Because you balance around solo queue, then the organized teams are going to be super powerful. But if you balance the game only around organized teams, then solo queue is going to be impossible. And you have to strike that balance of like, where is the game balanced around? Is it balanced around solo? Is it balanced around groups? And I think that adding the option to stay with your randoms as a solo queue player is going to shove more people into organized teams, which is going to ultimately help with the overall health and balance of the game.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's just having teammates you can rely on.
Yeah.
Like I've played with people before, and they're like they do the pinhead box. They go for the
for
the box. I'm like, oh my god, I want you on every team I ever play, because it's nice to not have to always be the one to go, well, if I don't go get the box now, it's gonna go off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's on me.
Yeah. Oh, that pinhead match. I can't think about it.
Are you back? Are you back thinking about Pinhead again?
Yeah, about the 5 slow down Pinhead. Plaything Pentimento Pinhead. Like, how small PP do you have to be? Sorry, I just had to get one in.
Wow.
Yeah, Evil Dead though. I know we still wanted to talk about Texas Chainsaw, but is there anything else we wanted to talk about with Evil Dead?
Oh, not Evil Dead. I'm pretty happy.
I don't. Yeah, I will mention that I played, like I said, like 40 hours of Evil Dead this week. I'm going to play when we end the podcast today. Like the game is really fun, and
Demon is great. Like that one Demon game I played just to warm myself back in the game. I had so much fun.
I need to play Demon because I haven't played it at all except for the tutorial. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd highly recommend it. It's so good.
And I mean, I'm sure that your 2 podcast hosts here would love to get in a call and coach you through the early stages so we can teach you a lot of the things that we didn't know when we started, because there are some minor things you can learn about that will completely change the landscape of the game for you. But yeah, the Demon experience to me is up there with the most fun killer experiences in ASIMs. I really, really enjoy it. I think the buffs were good for Demon because, again, top level demons were struggling prior to the 2013 patch, and now guys like me who only have 150 hours, with 100 of those hours being survivor hours, can play demon and still feel competitive. There's definitely a barrier of entry where you basically need to just lose a lot until you get one of your demons leveled up, because you're not going to beat full stacks of 25s with a level 20 demon. It's just never going to happen because they're just going to scale too much for you to ever really compete. But if you get through all that stuff, it's almost like with VHS. If you got to get through those growing pains, the early stages, And if you
there's a lot of trial
be...
by fire, which I think actually does hurt these games in the long run, because casual players come in, they trial by fire, like, I don't need to have a bad time. I can just go play something else. But it is true. I do agree with what you're saying.
A day one Evil Dead player and a day one Call of Duty player having two very different experiences with learning. You know, you don't just point and shoot in Evil Dead. You have to learn all the weapons and all the maps and all the. You have so many. There's like so much stuff to learn that I could see that being kind of an issue for new players. And then, you know, we had the same issue in VHS, right?
Yeah.
We talked about a lot.
You know, I'd be interested to see an asymmetrical horror game without the grind present, like something that's more acclimated for a casual player base that just wants to pop in and, you know, play with people on a similar power level or playing field, kind of like Fortnite. You know, you drop in, you all start with nothing.
That's
and you
true.
Just find what you do and you snowball through the match like that. I wonder if there's a way to do a asymmetrical horror game like that.
The way you would do that is because you need grindcore in these games. You need a reason to keep people to get points.
Yeah.
So you just do it cosmetically, and that would win me over because I love cosmetics. Like no, every time there's a Fortnite like event, like to get what was the skins, like there was Naruto stuff. I grind. There was like a website
DBZ.
Like I'll do it. I will earn all the rewards because I want the free cosmetics.
What about a system in an ASIM where, similar to like the League of Legends model, where you're literally not allowed to play ranked until you're like account level 30 or something like that, right? So what about an ASIM that came out and what it launched with was a real bare bones version of the game, a very simple. Imagine DBD with no perks, right? And on a limited map set, and you had to grind to like account level 10 before you could move into the general player base. So like, it kind of forced people to play a bare bones simple version to learn the basics. And then like once you hit that account level, then you start earning perks, you start earning, you know, you move into a different player pool. Would that be too hard to manage with a small player base at the initial launch, or is that something that can maybe work?
I think so. I mean, I'm getting flashes to a game called Nosgoth that me and John used to play.
Nosgoth from the Rocket League developers, Psyonix.
Yeah, we loved that game. We really enjoyed playing it, and then we broke through the beginner zone, I guess. We didn't realize we were in. We were playing with the other baby players that were just picking up the game.
It was like 4 vampires versus 4 vampire hunters, and vampire was so much fun to play. Yeah,
and hunter wasn't bad either. It wasn't as fun, but like it was still pretty good. And then when we finished the tutorial zone, I guess, like we played enough, it was like, okay, now you move in to play with the real people. It was miserable. It was like we stopped playing the next day, and then the game died like a month later. They shut the servers down. But I remember that day we were like, "Well, this sucks," because the only people in this zone are like professional players that take it a bit too seriously.
Yeah, they're fully upgraded, fully leveled, fully unlocked everything.
Oh yeah.
I do think that there is something to be said for like putting in bot matches at the beginning, because like Fortnite, for example. Hate to keep bringing it up, but your first 10 matches of Fortnite are against bots. You're basically put into giant lobbies where there's some other real players, but it's mostly bots. And it's like your first match is like 95% bots. And your second match is like 85, 60%, 50%. You know, they slowly acclimate you in by including fewer and fewer bots. And of course, that's with the like 99 players, right? So can't really do that with ASIM. Unless it's something like Hide or Die, I guess, which that game.
I want to talk about that. So I loved that game, but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I never played it. I only saw like the trailer and stuff. But I wonder if there's a way to slowly ease you in so it's not jarring like what Gary was talking about with Nosgoth, where it was like we were against like, you know, possibly bots, possibly like baby players, and then we just got thrown in the deep end with people that have been playing for thousands of hours. I wonder if there's like an in-between that you could work out where it slowly eases you in. Because I would like that for Demon and Evil Dead. Like,
well, you can play AI matches with Demon and Evil Dead. Like, you can absolutely queue up and play against AI.
Oh, really? As Demon?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know if you can earn spirit points doing that. I doubt it.
I think you can, because I did play against AI as Survivor in Evil Dead just to check it out, and it was really boring because the AI was so bad as Demon. It spawned like one one deadite every minute, and I just killed it, and I just didn't get any points or have any fun.
It must be like a reduced amount of spirit points you can earn then, so people can't just like instant farm their account up.
Yes, yeah, I think it's greatly reduced.
I bet it gives you like 10% of what you'd earn.
Yeah, probably so. But there you go. That'd be a good. Yeah.
I mean that would be good to like learn, at first. But yeah, I mean going from the bots are going to be terrible, I'm sure. And then going from I would be
interested to see hear your opinion of Demon in Evil Dead, just because I know you didn't like playing the Mastermind in Resistance.
No,
Resident Evil Resistance, which is a very similar style to Demon, I'd say.
That's probably what's put me off playing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you'll prefer Demon. I think it's better.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's more. I don't know. I should probably.
And that's probably just because it's got a larger player base. Like you'll get. With Resistance, because I think you started playing it like a month into its release, it already just kind of become the sweaty people. The casuals had already kind of walked away from the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I played it when it first came out, and it was okay. And then, there was I took like a month off from everything, and then came back, and it was much different.
I recently had a conversation with a friend about just how nice... Everybody always harkens back to the release day. Like, oh, the game was so much better when it first came out. And it's like, I think that's because nobody knows what they're doing. And so when you first start playing your first match as a DVD back in the day, or Evil Dead VHS, like everybody was like, whoa, what is this? And then like, as the meta starts to shift, people start to learn how to play, then the game does become sweaty. I mean, a perfect example, Midnight Ghost Hunt, right? We had a blast with Midnight Ghost Hunt for like 2 weeks. It was so fun. I was like, this is going to be a great game. I'm going to play this forever. And then once people started figuring things out, it just became like a really miserable experience.
I remember we had a match where we were like on Midnight Ghost Hunt, and the ghost players just kept flying like across, and we were like, we can't get them.
Yeah.
We can't win. This sucks.
Yeah.
They like learn all the perfect kiting spots and like just loop you forever, and you're just we just lose.
Speaking of Midnight Ghost Hunt, though, if I could move us on to the next topic, which might be worth talking about. On October 18th this month, there's a new Ghost game coming out called Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. Another new asymmetrical horror game.
Gasp!
Tell us more. It's very much like Midnight Ghost Hunt, except it's 4v1. You've got your 4 Ghostbusters versus the 1 ghost character. And it's quite interesting. I was like checking it out today, like reading up about it, watching all the trailers and stuff, and all the information I could gather on it. There's going to be AI as well. It's worth noting there's going to be AI ghost hunting options so that you can learn the game early on if you want to.
That's good.
It's going to support offline play with AI as well, which I thought was cool. So you don't have to be online in any way or form.
Big.
But it seems like the 4 Busters are taking on more the killer role to an extent, because they're going to be in first person, which I thought was interesting. So the 4 teammates, they'll be in first person with all their, the PKE meters and the particle gun. I forget what it's called.
Particle accelerator?
Particle accelerator.
Is that what it's called? The gun thing?
It sounds familiar.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's going to fact check us. No one's going to fact check us.
I'll fact check
Ghostbusters people.
John's going to look it up.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? What is the ghost win condition in Ghostbusters Afterlife? If the Busters are the killer and the ghost is the survivor, what is the win condition?
I couldn't find that just yet. I don't know if I just missed it, but I couldn't seem to find that piece of information. Obviously, the Ghostbusters just have to trap the ghost in the ghost trap.
Right.
I don't know if they can, because ghosts seem to be able. There's a fear level. Like the Busters will have a fear level, so I wonder if there's something where the ghost can incapacitate the Busters by freaking them out, because they can throw slime and stuff at them.
It's called a proton pack.
Proton pack. That's the
one. We had so many people that disclosed the podcast.
These guys don't know what they're talking about.
Or cyclotron.
Accelerator.
No, Spooky Loops is listening with bated breath. He wants to know more about the proton pack.
I feel like he turned the podcast off after the Evil Dead segment. Honestly.
No, it's his favorite part. He stuck it through. Now he's like, oh no, they're gonna move on from Evil Dead.
But there is something to do with fear levels, so I'm intrigued by that. And then the ghost is in third person.
Right.
And they actually, from what I can gather, they haunt the building, the museum, the hotel, by looks of things. I think there's an aquarium as well, just levels I could see. And they can scare NPCs. I don't know what that's going to have to do with anything. Like maybe they gather power or something.
Yeah,
by doing that.
Yeah. Kind of like Blood Hunt a little bit. Huh?
Yeah, like where you go around and you absorb powers out of sucking the blood off of just the NPCs walking around. But they seem to be able to make loud noises. They can possess objects like Midnight Ghost Hunt, which is where it's the most similar to Midnight Ghost Hunt, where you can possess objects to hide. You can throw slime at people, including the Busters, which is what I wonder if that's like a way you can eventually incapacitate them. You hide, you can scare people. And what I thought was quite interesting is there's a lot of character customization for both sides.
That's good.
Because I think if you get the pack early, the special pack, you can dress up your ghost as Slimer.
Mm-hmm. I think. Yeah, I pre-order for the Slimer skin.
Yeah, I think I might pre-order it as well. I quite want Slimer.
The green one, right? Is my thing.
Yeah, the one in the original film.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's like a rough that's I couldn't find that much about the game.
Yeah. Seems
so
like these Epic Games releases come out with like very little. We had no information about Evil Dead before it came out too, right? They did like one closed Xbox beta before they went live with it, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
And then we had to hurry to watch the YouTube videos before they got DMCA strike because they had NDAs. They weren't supposed to upload anything, and they did.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic about this Ghostbusters game. But yeah, I do feel like the lack of information has got me a little bit.
Yeah, that's how I feel a little bit. Like I think like the art style's interesting. It looks quite.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit like Prop Night art style. Like it's a little bit like it's not taking. I will say like is it Ernie Hudson? Is that his name? And Dan Aykroyd. They're both in it. Like they're both doing voice work for it, which I was like, that's a good sign because that means it's got like support from people involved with it. Original cast members. So I'm hopeful.
It's got a good license and it's got crossplay, which means that it should survive long enough for us to find out if it's a good game or not. Right?
Yeah. I'm most intrigued about the ghost roll because you're being hunted.
Same. Oh, I can't wait. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a very flip reverse of like the power roll being something it's kind of like VHS, I guess, when they've all got weapons. Yeah, like how are you gonna fight back?
Do you think that this game is gonna officially kill Midnight Ghost Hunt?
Yes,
because Midnight Ghost Hunt was always like the diet Ghostbusters anyway.
It's a kind of a dead game as it is because as Doug was saying, like it just got really unfun to play, got really sweaty.
Right. I wonder how many current players there are.
I think Ghostbusters will have enough of a younger audience as well that it won't just be populated by sweatlords.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna answer your question with a question and say, how can you kill that which is already dead? If anybody listening right now knows anyone who's played Midnight Ghost Hunt in the last week, let me know and I'll hook you up with some channel points on my Twitch channel. Like there's no
now this is interesting. This is interesting. The average players for September 220 for Midnight Ghost Hunt on Steam.
More than I thought it would be.
So they're pulling VHS numbers then.
There's 248 playing right now. Which is odd because in August the average player count was 38. So I wonder what happened.
I wonder if it's picked
Halloween's
up
coming.
Halloween. Yeah. I wonder if people were like, let's play the ghost game.
In September, really? Like
maybe Markiplier played it or something, and a bunch of people just checked it out for a day.
It's the spooky season again. Like I'm playing horror games on Twitch. Like
well, Midnight Ghost Hunt last month in September had a peak count of 2,932. So something must have happened. They had a new release or something. Must have. Because before
that we missed because
let me check.
Dead game.
I'll check the Steam news. I'll check the Steam news here.
The peak in August was 149, so that doesn't just happen. Yeah.
September 27th was the early access patch 14.
Oh, it must have just been that then.
Do we force ourselves to play this one too, boys? Maybe just check it out.
Why would we play that which is already dead, though?
Well, maybe we'll bring it back to life. We have Star Power.
The only reason
our Romanian fans will spring into action.
I tell you what, we should play it just so that when October 18th rolls around and we obviously all play Ghostbusters, we have that knowledge fresh in our mind of what was Midnight Ghost Hunt like? How much better is this game?
True.
Because Midnight Ghost Hunt, if it feels the same, we'll be like, this is a problem because that game was not fun in the end.
Yeah, we can't give it a fair assessment right now because there's been 14 patches, right? And I think when we were playing, like Gary, when you and Linksy and I were playing,
we were quite early on, yeah.
Probably like patch 3 or 4 or something. Like, this is really early on in the game's development cycle, and it's in early access too. So I guess maybe I was a little early to declare it dead because they're still in early access and there's still a lot that can change. But
it's still in high school. It hasn't even got a job yet.
Just playing. The last time we played it, like physically hurt me. It was so unfun. Like,
it was miserable.
So
I think the last time I played it, I spent more time reinstalling it than I did playing it.
Yeah, you talked about that more than once. It took me longer to download and install than I actually spent playing it. Yep.
But there was 2 Brits here for a second. Then, whoa.
Yeah.
I heard 2 Garys for a second.
I'm bilingual. It's okay. I got.
He speaks British as well.
Before we wrap up, we did want to talk about Texas Chainsaw, though.
Yes, that's a game which I've done a lot of research onto. So
we're checking in with our field reporter right now, Gary Bunn, who has news on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Back to you, Gary.
There's quite obviously a lot of it's like in the trailers as well, so you probably already know this stuff, but it might be good to just go through it all.
Sure,
if that sounds good. So instead of survivors, they're called victims, which I thought was quite interesting. I quite liked that.
I'm a victim.
You
can say that now.
What about my food?
So it's four victims versus 3 of the Slaughter family. It's not being called the Sawyer family, from what I understand. It's going to be referred to as the Slaughter family, which I think is the original name from the 1974 film. I think there's like a gas station or something. I was like double checking to be like, why is that the case?
Yeah.
I mean, as the gas station is the Slaughter family. But there's only 2 ways to escape and win the game as the victims. I believe there's exit doors that need to be powered. There's at least 1 exit door that needs to be powered because again, like it's hard to find definitive information. But it looks like there's 1 door that needs to be powered in the basement, and then I suspect the other exit is like the street. You know, you get to the road. I think I think on the trailer where you see one of the victims running. I think that's the other exit point through the field. So
there's an exit like from the game in the basement? Because from what I was reading, all the survivors start the game in the basement of the house. Right?
Well, yeah, it needs to be powered. So I think you need to. It looks like there's a little fuse mini game that you have to collect fuses to power it. From what I can gather, I've watched like a lot of bits trying to pull it together. So this is like what I think it might be, because they haven't actually announced these things as true. So take it with a pinch of salt. But it also, I thought the door being powered, it looks like it's interesting because it might split the team up. Because I think the place to power the door is separate to where the door is. So once you power it from inside the house, I think you might have to make your way back down into the basement and then escape yourself whilst your teammates may already be there able to get out, which I thought was quite interesting. Instead of repairing generators, victims will seek to deactivate them because they're electrifying fences and stuff. So opposite to DBD, you actually want to turn the generators off so that you can actually progress and find, I'm guessing, the fuses. Survivors can hide in wardrobes, turn the lights off, which is a big part of the game, I think. You can hide in freezers and in bushes. Very DBD. Like there's elements of that when you're out in the garden.
Some hide and seek. That's good.
Yeah. It looks like there's a lot of hiding tents stuff to it. Victims can fling themselves out of windows as like a last ditch effort to kind of escape. And then there's wells in the front lawn, like around the house. And if you jump into a well as another of like, I need to get away from the killer, you go back down to the basement, back to square one. But you get away. So that's I love that idea as like a risk versus reward thing.
You know, it's. I think the dynamic on this game is going to be really interesting because, you know, like let's say you're playing a Slaughter family member and you're chasing a victim in the front yard, right? And then they fall down a well, and it's like, normally in another asymmetrical game, you'd be like, I gotta go back in the house, I gotta go down to the basement to go find them. But really, in this game, from what it sounds like, it's like, good. You go back in there. That's why I want to keep you anyway. You know,
that's where Bubba is. So good luck. That's where one of the other family members is running around. Maybe you may land right in front of one of them.
Because it seems like It seems like in this one, because in a lot of asym horror games, it's like the pace is kind of dictated by how fast the survivors do objective, and it's your task to slow them down as killer. And it seems like in this one, just from what you're describing, it seems like your task as killer is to keep them trapped, and to the more time they waste, fine. They're not. You're not really pressured to kill them quickly like in the other ones. Yeah. It's more just like
you
prevent them
prolong
from
the game
escaping.
and injure them.
Yeah,
basically, and slowly get them down.
That's cool.
And there seems to be some kind of fear and stress meter in the game as well. I don't know specifically what it is for. I suspect audio. Like if you get freaked out, you probably make more noise. What I did find is that Leatherface's chainsaw, if he walks around with it loud, will increase their fear and stress quite a lot. So if he's walking around being loud, but like what's really interesting about that is he can turn it off and stealth around. Insidious Bubba can be in Texas Chainsaw.
In the basement.
In the basement. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a very complex game, which can be a little concerning depending on who's developing the game, but I have a lot of faith in Gun Media and Wes Kellner. I think it's going to be great. And
I think environmentally it's complex, but I think mechanically it's straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it seems to me like it's just the survivors have a very clear objective. There's this door and there's that door. Get out one of those. Don't get caught. And the killers have another very straightforward thing of kill the victims. And then there's little intricate things that support that core loop, but the core loop is simple.
Yeah. And another thing is that, like, as killer, you're not going to be alone. So in that scenario you were just describing earlier of, like, falling down the well and escaping, a chase, like, it'll also be comforting as a killer to be like, well, one of my teammates is down there to deal with you, That's going to be cool.
Yeah, Doug will be like, John and Gary are running around the house somewhere.
Yeah, they'll get him. They'll get him.
And we'll be waiting in the basement like, yes, they fell down the well. Yes.
John, Gary, they fell down to tile 7. Tile 7.
We'll get really sweaty with it.
Yeah. Tile 7 on the way. Over.
Speaking of the family, so do you want me to go through all of their, like, what they do and stuff?
Yeah, sure.
So you've got Leatherface, Bubba himself. He can break through barricades, he can break crawl spaces, and break through locked doors. Interestingly, if he doesn't, he can hit the victims with his chainsaw without revving it, which it only does a little bit of damage. But I think he can insta-kill people if he revs it enough. There's like a certain sweet point where he can insta-kill a victim. But if he messes it up, it'll stall. So there's like a... It's very
like a skill
true
check.
Yeah. There's like it sounds like there's a sweet spot to it, which I think that's awesome. Like, I think it'd be very satisfying if a victim can, keep enough distance that it stalls. It's going to feel really satisfying to get away from him whilst he throws a tantrum. And then you've got the cook, who can listen closely to find victims who are opening doors. So like if they're making noise around, he can like focus and be like, oh, they're in the basement over there. So he can kind of focus and find people, and he can also add locks to the doors. He can lock doors, which is interesting, because there's a skill check that victims have to do to open doors. Then there's the hitchhiker. He can get through the crawl spaces, much like the victims, and like keep up with them. And he can also set bear traps. So that's quite exciting. Like you can set up little trap areas, like in front of these generators or through crawl spaces and stuff. I think all three of the main killers they've revealed all sound really fun to play as. Like, I think that's
they've
all three of them sound cool.
They've all got like unique powers and abilities and strengths. That's neat.
Yeah. What's really interesting though is there's a fourth member of the family. It's kind of a 4v4.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Because there's the grandpa, the non-playable member of the family.
Yeah.
And when you feed him blood from victims, he will shout and like scream and tag the victims. So if you can't find people, there's another thing that the killers can go do, which is feed him and then get a notification of where they are. But I did find out that you can survive. This is the way I could see it was being described as decommission him. I don't know what that means, but victims can decommission the grandpa.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
So I don't know if that means deactivate him or if it means just get him out of the game.
Ooh.
Yeah, kill Grandpa.
Yeah, like I don't know which one that is, but I thought that's quite interesting as well.
Damn, I can't wait to play it. Honestly, when is it coming out? 2023.
Yeah, it's a little while away still.
Yeah.
Is it early 2023 at least, or?
I don't think that there's a time frame yet. I think it's just 2023.
Oh,
I think that the assumption is early 2023 because I think that they kind of insinuated that they'd have it out by the end of 2022. Like this was, I think the original time frame was to have it out by the end of the year, and then they had to kind of push it back into 2023. So again, I would expect like spring.
Yeah,
I really want to play it.
Yeah, like everything I hear about it is really exciting.
And that's just like the killer side. Like I think the survivor side sounds great too. I was trying to find all of the survivor abilities. I can only find 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Connie, who can instantly break one lock rather than completing a skill check minigame, which I think that's quite exciting that she can immediately escape a situation, which might be quite important at integral times. There's Leland, who can tackle killers and knock them to the ground, which I think that's something that people wanted in DVD for ages. So I think that's quite a fun little idea. Yeah. Then there's Anna, who she's like the main victim, who's like her narratively she's looking for her sister Maria, and her ability allows her to be more durable and tank more damage. And then the other 2 I couldn't find, but there's Julie. Her UI icon looks a little bit like she's got a sprint burst power, which rings true of her like backstory of her being quite athletic.
Yeah.
And then there's Sonny, who I can't figure out what his is at all, but I did take a quote from his his biography thing to have a guess. He's described as perceptive and intuitive, exceptionally situationally aware. So I wonder if he can see interactables a bit more, or hiding spots, or
maybe
something like that,
auras or something. Because there's not going to be like a terror radius or anything. It's just
I think he might just be more aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I quite like that they've all got something. Because another thing that we've always said about DVD, we'd love the survivors to all actually have something unique about them.
We wouldn't all love that, but yeah, you guys would love that. I'm kind of against that idea, but we don't have to go into that too in detail. I think with the core game design of Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw, it makes more sense.
Yeah,
to have unique abilities and have that with it. I think with DVD it would be more limiting in the meta. People would just figure out which survivor was the strongest and play that one, and you'd only see like 4 survivors ever.
Yeah.
The only thing the 11 we see now.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm a little there's a skill tree involved. I hope it's not too similar to Evil Dead in that sense. Because obviously people who play longer can just crush people that are new to the game, which is something we talked about earlier being an issue. But overall, I think the game sounds amazing. Like they've even gone as far as to rebuild the replica of the exact Poulan 306A chainsaw from the original film, so they could get the exact chainsaw sounds for Bubba.
I like that.
I think that's awesome. I think that's that's like just so good. Like I was looking through the Gun Media released a video of them comparing their game to the original film for the Sawyer house, and it's so impressive. It looks exactly like it. It's like blows your mind. It's so good.
That's gonna be so much fun to play. I can't wait for it to come out.
Same.
Yeah, I was literally just like watching the trailer again. I was like, you know what? I want to find out everything I can because I'm so excited for this game. So I did my little research thing this morning. I was like, this will be good on the podcast. I'm sure I'll just find out everything.
I hope they do like a early closed beta like they did with F13. That'd be sick.
That would be cool.
I bet they'll do something like that. Gun Media loves content creators and stuff. I'm sure they'll do something.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, without question. Gun Media is aware of the content creation influence of Friday the 13th. That game still has full-time streamers playing it.
Yeah.
Hasn't had a content update since 2017. And there are still people that stream Friday the 13th full-time on Twitch.
That's 5 years.
Yeah.
It's 5 years.
Yeah, for a game that had like 7 total updates.
It's like, you say it's 2017. I mean, we're all in our 30s and stuff. We that seems like just yesterday to us, but that's 5 years ago. Yeah. So I think they'll be looking at the game from a content creation perspective and knowing what content creation can do for the longevity of a game.
And let's hope they keep in mind the #1 asymmetrical horror podcast for that.
Spine Chill.
Yeah.
Number one video game podcast in Romania. Never forget it.
True.
Do we get
Thanks
like a
to all
plaque sent to
Romanian
us at
fans.
some point?
I hope so.
I want a plaque that says number one video game podcast in Romania. That's what I want.
Me too.
All right.
I mean, it's
We'll
one
get 'em
thing.
made.
It's one thing to be the number one ASIM podcast. That's cool. But number one video game podcast? Come on.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Pretty good. We just got started. I'm just getting started.
Oh my God! If I close my eyes, it's like Wesker's here.
Correct.
There's no point in hiding. All right. Well, that was a great season of Spine Chill. Season 4, I think, gotta be a top 5 season, right?
Knocked it out of the park. I think we did a great
Easily,
job.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again, Gary, for all the effort you put into the Texas Chainsaw research, because you.
I had
brought a
to
lot of
dig
stuff to my
around for a
attention.
lot of this stuff, like trying to find out what was it Anna's power. Like I just found that on a website randomly. I don't. Again, everything I don't know if it's not on their official site.
They
I don't
made
know
it
up. But
Yeah. Theory crafted. It's like, oh wait, Five Nights at Freddy's is going to be in Texas Chainsaw. Whoa, we gotta talk about this in the podcast.
Freddy Fazbear teaming up with Bubba? What? What's that gonna be like?
new
I found it on
map
Reddit. It's gotta be
pizzeria.
real.
Yeah, the new map is the pizzeria. Quite the change in venue. Well, yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Want to give you a teaser before we sign off. Next week for season 5, we will be doing a special episode where the 3 of us team up to make a killer tier list for Dead by Daylight. And it's going to have to be consensus picks. So we're going to have to argue back and forth and decide what we're happy with. So look forward to
That sounds
that.
exciting.
Special episode.
Much like everything in DVD, 2 survivor mains against 1 killer man. So, what about my food, boys?
I don't care about your fun.
I don't care about my food.
Well, what about our food?
Yeah, I'm the power roll. It doesn't matter. No.
Right.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. I'm really honestly looking forward to doing battle. I prefer to be outnumbered anyways. So
But yeah, we're
Doug likes a
looking forward to that.
challenge. That's why he plays the killer role.
That's right. And we like it on Easy Street. And that's why we play Survivor.
But me and John are doing it differently this time. We're not solo queuing.
Yeah. We're duo
yeah.
queuing. And we
can't
each
wait.
brought
This
a
is gonna
brand
be
new
great.
part.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank everybody for listening. And big thanks to our co-hosts here, Gary, the Hot Cross, and Doug, Running Man. You can find them both on twitch.tv/runningman and twitch.tv/thehotcross.
Couple of legends.
Couple of legends. And you can find me at twitch.tv/John Wolfe or on YouTube at WolfDBD. Feel free to check that out. If you're just randomly on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or something, just saying. You can check out the video version of these. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Gotta hold it. Gotta hold it for the fade to black.